There's no right or wrong way to create art. It's one place where an occasional failure is practically guaranteed. Then again, failure is in the eye of the beholder, and Texas Cultural Trust CEO Heidi Marquez Smith tends to see success in almost every artistic effort. Welcome to BexarCast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is BexarCast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationships between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. An El Paso native, Heidi Marquez Smith served as director of the Office of Cabinet Liaison in the George W. Bush administration. When she returned to Texas, she became executive director of the Texas Book Festival before becoming CEO of the Texas Cultural Trust in 2017. She's a proud graduate of the University of Texas and lives in Austin with her husband David and their three sons. Heidi, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you making some time for me.
Well, thank you for inviting us. We appreciate the invitation, and we hope that we can continue to keep up a dialogue.
I'm delighted to have you. The trouble is, where do we start? Where to begin? The Texas Cultural Trust does so much that it's hard to pick a lane. There's so much to talk about. But I'm going to start with the Young Masters program because that's kind of where my interest lies. That's where we intersect. BexarFest is for middle school and high school students who are making media for nonprofit organizations here in Bexar County and San Antonio. And the Young Masters program provides scholarships to youngsters between the 8th and 11th grades. So we're kind of playing in the same arena.
Yes.
As I understand it, the Young Masters program was launched in 2002. And it's a joint program between the Texas Cultural Trust and the TCA, Texas Commission of the Arts.
That's right.
You award scholarships to young artists in music, theater, dance, visual arts, which is my bailiwick, literary arts, and other disciplines. The program helps these kids, and again, this is very much what we're doing with BexarFest. We want young adults, teenagers, to see that you can have a career in the arts. This isn't just, it's not a pipe dream. It can happen. You can do this. And tell me the backstory of how the Young Masters program came to be.
Sure. So it launched with the Texas Commission on the Arts, and it was really intended to really highlight the incredible talent that is developed and cultivated, and to encourage an investment in arts education. And the first class was not as large. Currently, we typically have about 15 young masters who come from all over Texas. And as you mentioned, the scholarship awards funds for young artists in various disciplines. And it's important that we highlight these incredibly talented individuals. I'm talking about, these kids could truly quit school, and we encourage that, and seek a career right now and really do extremely well.
Absolutely.
But what's important too, as it's evolved, is that we've been able to talk about why arts education is important, not only for our personal benefit and for a hobby, but how it impacts everything from academics to health.
Right. And the program is growing too, right? So each scholarship is what, $10,000 over 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And how can that money be used? Is that just tuition, or how can the kids use that money?
That's a very good question. As you noted, it is only for 8th to 11th grade students. It's not for seniors in high school, because what we fully intend these funds to be used for is to further enhance the education of these students so they can get into the college or university that they are striving to get into. As you can imagine, the field is extremely competitive. And also these types of rigorous additional study outside of the public school or their private school are extremely challenging and also expensive. And so we wanted to help students who were seeking to further their education in their discipline to be able to hone their talent and to use these funds specifically for that. Many of them use them over the summer for various institutes all over the world, all over the country, and of course in Texas. And it allows them to be more competitive and to learn more about being an artist, and to look outside of their immediate geographic area.
Right. Yeah. That's one of
They're not
one.
college scholarships. They're not
Right.
college scholarships.
That's one of the challenges that we try to address with BearFest, is to let kids understand that it's a great big world out there.
Absolutely.
That you can have a career in San Antonio, or you can have a career somewhere else if that's where you're intending to go. You're more than welcome to stay here, but you don't gotta.
You can always come back to Texas. Texas will
Exactly.
always
You and I both did.
Yes, we
Right?
do. Very true. Very true.
BearFest is a way for kids to explore media careers like we're talking about. We want them to see the behind the scenes of filmmaking, or the behind the scenes of making original music or graphic design or photography. We create this platform where they go out and work with a client and create media on behalf of that client. So they're also getting an in-depth look at how a nonprofit organization operates. What we found is a lot of high school students think everybody that works in a nonprofit is a volunteer. There ain't nobody here getting paid. I can't make a living. Well, of course you can. Of course you can. So we want them to see that. We want them to see how a nonprofit operates, and to understand it. Wow, I really want to be an accountant, and I love dogs. So yeah, this could work. I could do this. So we're showing them a couple of media tracks. There's media production, or a couple of career tracks. There's media production and community service. So where you're intersecting with students is further down that career road, that they pretty much, yeah, I'm going to be an artist of some sort. But how important is it to give that kind of support to young people who are just starting to explore their options? We want to encourage them. How important is that encouragement?
So can I start with kind of where you first talked a little bit about launching media careers, and creative platforms. And I love your mission and what you do and the opportunities that you offer to students, because I think so many students, if they did not have early access to arts education, they may not think they can do it. They may be more hesitant, less confident, thinking, I'm not talented, there's no way I could do this. And that's why it's so important to provide that access early on, because there's no right way. There's no wrong way to do art, right? It's a creative, of course, instruments are a little bit different, but visual arts and being creative, those are things that are available to everyone and anyone in any format. So when you talk about entering digital careers and graphic design, that's part of the innovative creative sector. And that's something that, you may love the arts, and it may be that you love designing things. You have a real eye for depth perception and what goes well and what doesn't. And that can lend itself to so many things. And through training and access to arts education, students can really do anything they want, from being a lawyer to going into various media careers, graphic design, to working behind the stage, behind Broadway, film, video. One of our programs is Arts and Digital Literacy, which falls under our Arts Access program, but it is a curriculum that we provide to high school teachers to bridge the gap between arts and technology. So what we're saying to students is, you may not think, because at this age in high school, you can't play an instrument, or you didn't take excessive classes in drawing or painting or dance, but you know what? You can still be creative. You can still learn about the arts. You can still learn the fundamentals and navigate a different career. So I just wanted to mention that, because they do go hand in hand. I think we intersect in so many ways, specifically when you look at that. And then to answer the second question, if I recall, was specifically, why is it important to encourage kids? Is that right?
Right.
Is that what you're asking? Specifically in a creative path? Well, it's because it bolsters their confidence. It provides a sense of not only confidence, but a sense of problem solving. It allows us to recognize that failure is not a bad word. And for so many people, mistakes, failure are bad words. But I do feel that being in creative education shows you that you keep trying from that quote unquote failure or that mistake, or you just try harder. It teaches you how to work harder. It teaches you problem solving. It teaches you that there's no such thing as failure. You keep trying and you get better and you perform. And guess what? That failure teaches you not to go down that path anymore. So there are a lot of basic skills that the arts do instill in students. That's collaboration as well. Problem solving, as I mentioned. And I will mention specifically too, we do have a board member who is an attorney, and he is now retired, but he did say that when he had some tough cases that he really could not crack or was unsure which direction to go, he would always consult those attorneys who were in the band or had some sort of arts training, because they could think in a different way, in a different fashion. And those are some of the things in 21st century work skills that access to arts education allow for students.
Absolutely. You pushed one of my buttons there as far as practicing and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And maybe I'm not cut out to be a graphic designer. Nobody else seems to think this is a big deal, yet I'm so passionate about it. One of the things, one of the elements of Bearfest is the big premiere. We have every spring at the Tobin Center here in San Antonio.
Love the Tobin.
Oh, yeah, what's not to love? We bring all the schools together, bring all the kids, all the nonprofits together, and we show their videos on a giant screen, and there are 1,000 people in the audience, and they do the whole grand premiere red carpet thing. And that's exciting, that's fun, but the point is we want the kid that thinks he's the only one at some little high school in South San Antonio or one of the outlying areas that thinks, hey, this is never going to happen. I'm the only guy that cares anything about graphic design. To see hundreds of other kids from dozens of other high schools that are just as excited and just as passionate as he is, and to realize, wait a minute, this is bigger than I knew. This could happen. This could be a thing. That's my favorite element of the whole festival, is that premiere when those kids get to see their other kids. I'm not just a dreamer.
No, exactly. And look what you can do, at this age. Think of what you could do at the next level,
right?
If you keep on working hard and work on your creativity. I love that you do that. I want to attend the next event.
Absolutely.
Post-COVID, of course. When is that typically held?
It's in February.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be around the corner by then. Yeah, I hope so. Talking about that, the big premiere where the kids get to see their work, and also important is the parents get to see their work. That I've had it's funny when kids come into the Tobin, when they walk into the Tobin and they see the grandeur of the whole thing, they're a little verklempt. And the parents come in with this, oh, I got to go to this thing for my kid. It's some high school festival art thing, but I got to go because I said I'd go. Then they see what their children are capable of. They see the productions that they do and realize, wow, my daughter's talented. I never knew that. I never expected that. And so the parents walk out with a whole new understanding of their own children. And I know when I was in high school and I went to my parents and said, I think I want to be a writer. They flinched. They go, are you sure? Maybe I ought to take a welding class too. But does the Young Masters program help settle some of those nerves for parents when every parent thinks their child is gifted? Every mother thinks her daughter's beautiful. But for somebody else to say that, for somebody else to say your child is talented, we want to invest in that, we want to bet on them. How does that change a parent's perspective?
Sure, it definitely reinforces, right? All the practices that they've driven them to pick them up from. One of the things we always say when we first get to meet the parents of the Young Masters, before we honor them in a similar type of award ceremony that you're talking about, and we do that here in Austin, but we'd love to take it to San Antonio. But it really, when they see their children being highlighted in front of an audience, it just changes the entire landscape of how they see their child who's at home, maybe not putting their dishes in the dishwasher or, picking up their clothes. But it just shows that, wow, they have been focusing on something, right? They've been working really hard. And we always do thank those parents because they may not know that, having to leave work early and pick them up, after band rehearsal or taking them to an extra dance class, it's such an investment. And it might seem tedious. And sometimes, what am I doing this for? She's not going to become, or he's not going to become a professional in this, but it does. It inspires so much. And so, yes, it is extremely important for their parents, I think for parents to see their children excel in anything, whether it be an academic subject or the creative industry, I think it does change the playing field, and it reinforces everything they've been doing for their child. So I love that you highlight these students in that fashion, but it also, as you just said, builds additional confidence for these students to think, oh my goodness, people are here for me.
Right.
And I actually have had some parents during the award ceremony. So in addition to the $10,000 scholarship over 2 years, we put on an award ceremony that would have been held this past April in Austin, but we had to cancel because of COVID. And they are presented with the Young Master's Medal. So they are named a Texas Young Master. And they go on stage and they don't have to perform. This is all about them being honored. We don't put that extra pressure. We actually bring previous Young Masters to come and be highlighted.
Oh,
and during that time too, we bring in a professional photographer to take their professional headshot. And we kind of talk to them a little bit about that process and interviewing and when they apply to these additional education enhancements, all over the country and the world to use these funds. We try to provide that education. But I will say, I did have some parents come up to us almost in tears saying, thank you. Thank you. So much so that they turned around and made a donation to the Young Master program.
Nice.
Here we're giving them a gift. But I think it's something they should be just as proud as their children are. Because
Absolutely.
they are part of that. Most scenarios, they are part of that that support that's so needed, right, for these students.
Yeah, you see, you're dragging me off the point again. You're dragging me back down another.
I'm sorry. There's
And
so
I
much to
mean,
talk
it's
about.
easy to do. It's easy. Another element of BearFest that doesn't get a lot of talk because it's kind of under the radar is we hold what we call the Business of Creativity workshop, where we create a panel of people who are working in the media. They take the day off from their real media jobs to gather together at the Education Service Center in one big room with hundreds of high school kids. Ask me anything. What do you want to know about being a professional media maker? And so sure, we have a photographer. Sure, you need to know how to work your equipment. Of course you need to know how to work your equipment. How are you going to do your billing? Oh, wait, I hadn't thought of that. And video producers, videographers. Well, sure, yeah, there's the equipment side of it, but how do you do your scheduling? To let these kids know that, yes, you can absolutely have a media career, but it's a job.
Correct.
And you need to know how to do your job. So, yeah, that's a big element of
that you do that, because some artists today, that have had these careers for so long, that's the portion of their work that they don't want to do, maybe because they didn't learn or have access to it. So it's hard to learn the marketing aspects, the business aspects, and so on. How do I promote myself? So it's brilliant that you all are providing that extra education.
I consider BearFest an educational program or element, but I want to get past the Young Masters a little bit, because there's more to what the Texas Cultural Trust does. One of the things that really I want to focus on is Art Can, the research and reports element of the Texas Cultural Trust. And let me just give a couple of statistics because I've got them handy. Students enrolled in art courses have a 3.3 greater attendance rate. They just go to school more because it's fun.
Exactly. They're engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. High school students who complete more arts courses have a 15% higher pass rate on standardized tests. So exactly what you're saying. They're more engaged. They're not going to school because they have to. They're going to school because they get to.
And also because there is a correlation of having access to arts education that does improve academic success. We talked about those problem-solving skills, the innovation, collaboration, which all lend itself to successful academics.
Right. Yeah. When you talk about education in the 21st century, it's the 4 C's.
Yep.
I'm not going to get it right.
Collaboration, communication, and
creativity, critical thinking. Right. Yeah. And
all of that.
the fifth element is community. That's what we're doing. And from what I understand, arts and culture generate almost $5.6 billion in the Texas economy. That's a lot of dollars.
It's a lot of dollars. And what it doesn't take into account, which some of our national counterparts do take into account, is the fact when we go and see a film or listen to an orchestra or a performance or of any type, ballet, that typically we might go to dinner beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
We might purchase an outfit. We might use a ride share. There's so many other things that aren't even captured in that $5.59 billion, and that's one calendar year. And so we are, for this next State of the Arts report, and as you mentioned, ArtCan is probably our biggest program, our umbrella program that quantifies the impact that the arts have on the economy, education, way of life, and health and well-being now. But the 5.59 billion is truly much larger if you look to see how it affects all areas of the economy.
How much of that 5.59 billion has been impacted by the pandemic? How big has the impact been on the I guess it's the innovation sector?
Mm-hmm. So, that's a really good question, and that's something that we are attempting to quantify. Unfortunately, it's very soon. It's too soon to say anything right now, but what's been the biggest challenge is that the surveys that we are promoting and in asking arts organizations and individual artists to complete, the numbers are a little low. So we're encouraging people to go to the Americans for the Arts website and complete the COVID impact survey. We only have about 1,200, maybe to 2,000 now at this time reporting in on the negative impact in COVID. So that means lost seats, for performing arts venues. That means lost gigs for musicians. But it's extremely close, and I would say at least 2/3 of this this group of innovation workers have been impacted.
And what did I don't know where I read it. Something like 1 in 15 of all Texans are in the innovation industry.
That's right. And it's probably more if we were to reach out and be, a little bit more creative about which sections that we take into account, which coding we use. But yes, 1 in 15 jobs are innovative workers.
Wow. So yeah, the reach and the scope is massive, much bigger than I think people realize.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the economic impact of the pandemic, you're right, is going to be felt for years. Even when the theaters open again and the performances start again, it's going to take years to catch up.
It is, and what I think I mentioned to you before, a story that we're trying to illustrate, that the arts and culture industry was the first to shut down because of the pandemic, and they'll probably be the very last to reopen because of gathering and assembly restrictions. And so it's really sad when you consider the amount and the loss of seats and funds and jobs and layoffs that have occurred during this time. But what's so beautiful and the rainbow, I think, in all of this is that our creative sector were the first to take to the internet and to share their talent, through private concerts, through streaming concerts, through providing lessons. They were showing ways to keep us connected, to provide a medium to express our feelings, to have a universal language, but also a symbol of hope for so many of us. Can you imagine if we didn't have access to film, if we didn't have access to music, to dance during this time? What would we be doing? I don't know.
I know all the streaming services are booming.
They really are.
The golden age of streaming.
It really is. And, and what informs that are the actors, the artists, right? The concerts. Well, we would all love to meet in person, and I know they would too. They're being creative. They're figuring out ways to still reach an audience as much as they can, and they need our support. They really do, because we want to ensure that they come back, and they come back extremely strong. Right. And we have some great people out there that are encouraging them and finding ways to keep them active, right? And it affects all of us. But it's so wonderful that during this rainbow, when we talk about this, that the emotional salve that has been provided by art and culture is priceless. And during this time, we've seen the power of the arts magnified more than ever right now. And it's a story that we need to share with our elected officials, with our school administration, because it's important that they know that the investment needs to continue.
Right. And I think we're seeing, I think everybody is seeing the impact of the arts being restricted, shut down right now. That anxiety is up, depression is up, just antsiness is up. And of course, some of that is due to, I don't know if I'm going to get sick or not, or I don't know if somebody I love is going to get sick or not. But there's also just the emotional shutdown of not being able to go to the theater, go to a play, go to the movies. It's just you don't have that outlet. Even if you're not a performer, there's still that outlet. Yeah.
Correct. That quality of life doesn't exist, and the uncertainty is what's alarming, I think, for so many, is when does that come back?
Right.
And when it comes back, will it be the same? And what's also beautiful about that is that, so we are trying to quantify the impact right now, not only the negative impact of COVID, but also the positive impact of the arts, not only on the economy, education, but now health and well-being. We know that isolation has been extremely impactful on our emotional health, which can lead to mental health issues. So it's really important that we address that now. And we do know, and we are starting to collect data and anecdotes to show that access to art and culture can alleviate and remedy and provide therapy for those that are anxious, for those that feel depressed. There is a study that says that individuals who have at least access to art and culture one time a month are less likely to have emotional health issues. And so if we can prove that, what else can we do with the arts and regularly prescribe them, if you will, to those that are feeling isolated? But we all know, I think everyone can talk about a song that just lifts their spirits, right? Or, or a sound that might even bring you to the verge of tears. That's happened to me recently. We're thinking, why am I crying? But, it's so powerful. And especially during this time, it also allows us to relieve our feelings. I'm a big puzzler, and I like to color, and I like to draw and sketch. And it's wonderful when I personally get lost in that, get to sketch black and white just with pencil, or to fill something in, to be creative. Immersing yourself on that really is helpful and therapeutic too.
Yeah, that ability to turn everything else off. There's nothing going on outside this room, outside my line of sight right now. Yeah. I'm with you.
And I'd like to mention, we have not launched this yet, but I'm going to talk to you about it here. We're super excited about launching, which we're unclear what we're going to call it exactly, but art boxes is what we're calling them right now. And during this time, we recognize that not everybody is in school, and we recognize that not every school district offers the same quality of arts education access. But since we do know that creativity does help during this time, with emotional health, we are looking to start launching art boxes to students in Title I schools across Texas. And we're going to start at a school district. We're working on a pilot right now with Del Valle School District in Austin. And what it is essentially a box, a container that they can store the supplies that are going to come in there. And they're just very basic: drawing paper, canvas, watercolors, chalk, pencils, markers, things that, some families take for granted and don't recognize that they're true tools, to help us be creative. And this is something that we are hopeful will help with getting kids excited about the arts, about being creative. It's okay to make a mistake in a drawing that you have. You can create something else. And we hope that ownership of these at home will make a big difference in arts access, arts education, interest in the arts, and also emotional health. So
for kids and parents.
For kids and parents, exactly. So this box, while they can write, say, belongs to whoever it may be, it's something, these are resources that can be shared with the entire family. Right. For so many, that's not a priority in their budget. I know it wasn't for me growing up in El Paso. Those are things I remember looking and searching for paper at my grandmother's house all the time, or at my home. And so we'd always use the backs of envelopes of bills to draw or do something. But, you look at those basic things that we take for granted that we might have, just laying around, extra paper and so on. But not everybody has that access. And we want to make sure that students do have that access, because it's an incredible world out there. And we want everybody to take advantage and be creative and invent things in their minds. And too, as adults, we're more hesitant to get creative on paper. We're nervous. Are we doing it right? Are we doing it wrong? But kids, especially in elementary school, sky's the limit, and they really don't care as much. And so if we can instill that now, and it can, start to develop that failure is not a bad word. It's actually a stepping stone to the next level. And I think the arts do that. And it's
Excellent.
important to have that early quality access to art.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's great. That's great. It's a chance for kids to wonder
Mhm.
at the world. Look at the nothing good going on in the world right now, but I got my art box.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you can express your feelings.
right.
Maybe you don't know how to talk about your feelings. Where words fail us, art can pick up
Absolutely.
and inspire us. So,
You got me. You got me.
yeah.
I'm in. I'm in.
I
I'll
think I'm
take
speaking
part.
to the choir for sure.
Heidi, thank you so much. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for making time for me. Thanks for your insights and thanks for the art box.
Of course. And thank you, Randy. We'll send you one so you can take a look at
I want to
it.
see it.